1, number 3. Grass River, 3 R's. Grass River Railroad, why they didn't do G?
coming on.
This, ladies and gentlemen, are you ready to rumble?
Howdy, howdy, howdy. We should be getting a screen here pretty soon. Yep, there it is on Twitch. YouTube will catch up in about 6 hours, but Alrighty. I know this probably confused a few people, us being an hour early, but we announced it last week, and hopefully, and I'll put it in the post too, but let's see, we got Sean, Dave, Dwight, Justin, Sparky. How you doing? Brad, Brian, you run naked. Forward. But, yeah. Yeah, I'm doing okay. I'm doing okay, Sparky. Yeah. So.
Hi, everybody.
Yeah, we got Tim and Andy and Bob over here on the panel, so panel's open if anybody wants to jump in over here.
Got room for like, what, 8 more?
Yeah.
Something like that?
Yeah, 8.
9 more. 8, 9, whatever.
Yeah.
Don't know
Andy.
Jump in at once.
Well, Andy doesn't count because he's administrator.
Andy.
He has to drop out. To get 12, he has to drop out and get that last one in. Then he can come back in and make it 13.
For right now, when we upgrade by the first year when we go to the new system, we'll be unlimited. Effectively unlimited. Which also will get Johnny control, so then we can have everybody can come in here just that are in the chat right now and not have their video, not have their audio on. And if Johnny wanted to bring them all in, he could bring them all in, and then you could click the put your hand up button if you wanted to ask a question. He could bring you on, you could ask your question, and then drop back up. So we can do some really nice rotators with that technology. Plus phone support, so we have a phone number, so we can call it. That's something I'm really looking forward to, that particular feature, because there's a lot of people I wanted to interview that didn't have the internet speed to keep up with this.
All right, we got a couple questions here. One is from Dwight to Bob. Where did you get the small single engine house next to your roundhouse?
Is that the one right next to the turntable? That one there is kind of a maintenance building thing that I got with the roundhouse when I bought it from Troy up in northern Minnesota. But you can still get those. And then there's another little tiny, little maintenance building kind of thing that I have now, and that also kind of came with some other stuff that I picked up from the original guy that I bought my M scale from. And so you can still get that as well out there on Walther's and some local hobby stores.
And Sparky 107 has questioned Bob. Have to ask, when being that close to 4014 and it going on the tracks, did you cry for history relived? I would have just been in awe.
Well, the whistle that I heard, and I've heard it before. For some reason, this last trip, it seemed a lot louder, and I think I might have peed myself just a little, but it was just sweat, really, I think, and tears of joy. But I was trying to keep the camera steady and as much as I could. But it was a fun day on Tuesday, that was for sure. If you haven't seen it already, for those watching, I posted a video on my channel tonight about that whole trip yesterday or on Tuesday. It was a perfect day, beautiful blue sky and everything, and it was awesome to see. You need to bring earplugs if you're going to be there, that's for sure, when that whistle goes off. It shakes you to the core, really. In fact, it even overdrove my microphone. You could hear it kind of buzzing. It was so loud.
Yeah. Yeah, John 2618, he's here tonight. How you doing? Just remind everybody we did start an hour early tonight, and that will be from now on, I guess, at least for a while anyway. We'll be starting at 9 o'clock, not 10.
Okay, you guys that said that you heard an echo from me in the chat, if there's still an echo, let me know.
Yeah, I never heard of echo.
Yeah, I didn't hear it in this room anyway.
Well, yeah.
We'll see. I thought I'd eliminate it. I am using the good mic, so there's a chance. So.
Yeah.
Oh, I hear an echo on YouTube though.
Oh, that's what I need to check.
Ain't me, because I'm muted.
I know when I was talking, I heard an echo in my voice there, so I don't know. But anyway, what is everybody else doing in the model railroad world today?
Nothing today. I have not been able to make it over John's for a while. He had to have some surgery anyway, so he's kind of recouping, and I've got things that going on, so I can't get over for a while. But
Yeah, Johnny, there is a bit of an echo in the live stream.
Yeah.
It's subtle. There's an audio and a bit of a delay on the live stream.
huh. All right, because
I probably should listen to it more and see if it was you or just.
yeah, the microphone over here on the stream software, I've got it set a little bit on the low side anyway.
You should be safe either way with that. It should.
And when I'm talking, the background static on it's still fairly low. So I have
Okay. It does not affect your voice when you speak through YouTube, but when any of us speak through YouTube, there's a slight echo for all of them.
Huh.
Kind of, it's a very subtle thing, and honestly, I wouldn't even say that it's exactly echo. It's more like it's a lot of ambience or.
I wonder if you get it up on Twitch. Because if I turn the sound on Twitch, it will echo then.
Oh yeah, you can. I'll change it.
Yeah, John 2618 said he's been off almost 3 weeks now, and a lot of them all railroading, LOL.
Working on these A-line cars. Trying to get them lined out.
So I see an engine from above. What do you mean?
That's an A-line dash 8, I believe. It's got a A-line chassis, A-line body, but it's got an aftermarket drivetrain in it.
Okay.
I'm gonna finish it out too. I need to put the handrails on, the glass in it.
It's an A-line chassis. And who's the drivetrain? It's an A-line drivetrain as well?
No, it's Athearn.
Okay. And because they're built for an Athearn fit. So is it the Athearn Genesis kit that they make for converting or whatever?
I just bought the ones that A-Line had on their the trucks that that A-Line had, and I bought the motor, I think, off of eBay. Motor and the
Okay.
motherboard.
Is it a closed? It's a
Yeah.
can motor, closed motor.
It's a can motor.
Yeah, that's a new, probably the new. Of course, it's a new model out there trucks because you couldn't do the other ones. So and we used to do those years ago. We used to build those because I mean there was ways to get good running equipment years ago prior to having all this new stuff, but it took a little bit of work. If Cotto made it, you were you were taken care of. But anybody, if you needed a locomotive that Cotto didn't make, it was going to be somebody's drivetrain, a Canada company channel.
Alrighty, I've got a question here from You Run Naked 4. Said he had a question for the panel in regards to track noise. I often hear others complain about noisy track. Personally, I like to hear the noise of the wheels on the joints. What are your thoughts? Here we go.
I'm mainly usually concerned about the whirring noise that you hear as the train's going by. Not necessarily the clickety clack of the wheels on the joints, but it's the whir that you get when model train or toy trains running by. You hear that the motor noise resonate in your layout.
And that comes down to, so there's kind of two arguments with that, of course. Johnny knew I was going to be on this, but because I've debated, of course, I like to debate all kinds of these topics. This is just, this is debate number 37 of my short list of hits or something. But this is the argument of a road band. The key to the whole thing is what kind of road band that you're using. And some road band has an effect as well, but this is the cork versus foam versus homosote versus, there's a plethora of choices. I have to say that Ralph has a material that he's turned us on to that he uses that is a self-adhesive. It has a self-adhesive on one side, pipe insulation or pipe wrap. But it's about an 1/8 inch, maybe a little less thick. Comes in 2-inch wide strips. I cut it down, cut it 1 inch wide to make mine. If you're putting it on a wood sub-road band like I have my staging, it is one of the most sound dead, sound neutral materials I have messed with. Now, I'm doing that only in staging, so I have not ballasted it. My argument against cork is what the glue does to cork, and why I like. If I was just a flex track guy, I would use a foam road band or a homosote road band, either straight homosote in the sheet or homoband from that company Cascade, something that makes homoband. You Google homoband, you'll find it. It's shaped like cork. It's got the slopes and all that other stuff. You can buy it multiple heights, multiple slopes. And it comes in a regular track band. I love homosote, but that's a debatable topic. People either love it or hate it or whatever. I'm a big homosote fan, but I like the foam pretty good as well. My problem with cork is the traditional methods for applying ballast soak the cork with glue and make the cork hard. Anything that is rigid or hard is not going to have sound deadening properties. So cork's great when you have track on cork, especially, and also the way that you adhere your track is going to affect it. If you spike your track through the cork and into the wood, the cork is there for cosmetics because the sound is going to travel down that nail and into the wood, and the wood will become a speaker. So you'll get a lot more track noise. That's why a lot of people prefer glue and have for a long time, and why the popularity of silicone caulks or of caulk in general has become so popular in the last few years is because it continues to be a sound deadening adhesive.
Just real quick, IRL fan N&W, how you doing? He just popped in from Indiana.
Real fan N&W. I hope that's Norfolk Western. We'll see. Maybe it's Raphael Northwest.
Well, if he's Indiana, he's probably Norfolk Western.
That's true. Yeah. What about several of the YouTubers that are Norfolk Western models, like Matt Goodman? He models Ohio, I think. But there's a lot of people that model that Portsmouth to across the Cincinnati section of the Norfolk Western, the Flatlands Railroad.
Look at there, Andy left the back door open. How you doing, Andrew?
Hey, Johnny.
Hey, buddy.
Doing all right?
Hanging in there.
Yeah.
I mean, and back on the sound deadening deal, if you're running at like operating speeds, like doing operations or switching, you're not going to get a whole lot of that humming noise. Now, if you're running a loop at high speed, you're going to get it.
Well, and this discussion has changed a lot with the popularization and the quality of sound in locomotives. The sound deadening properties matter, and in some cases they matter more to make the sound be, the prominence and not have motors that overpower it. But our locomotives and stuff are pretty quiet these days. They don't, I remember locomotives that sound like coffee grinders. The sound we had, for a locomotive was pretty awful. We had sound locomotives 30 years ago. They just sound like a, like a coffee grinder. So
they sound like a dry gear train, dry gears.
That's right. And then the other kind of discussion around sound is if you want to enjoy quality sound, like the quality of sound in some of these great ESU decoders that sound so good, having more sound dead track, you don't have to go to extremes here, but more sound dead track does benefit, especially if you're like me and I care a lot about quality of sound and sound effects, but I don't like the volume really loud. I run about at 15 or so percent of stock volume. I want it to have a scale, as Professor Kleisler from Down Under suggests that we should treat sound as a scale and selectively compressed thing like everything else. I want the sound to be nice when I'm bright, when I'm right close to the locomotive, when I'm walking with it a foot or two away from my head. But if I'm 6 or 7 feet away from it, I want to barely hear it. And if I'm running a train, it should overpower anything that's more than 5 or 6 feet away.
And also, speaker quality makes a big difference too.
And the boxes, the little enclosures are, most of us are using those little, some of them are called sugar cubes or the little, the speaker phones that come in our phones. And there's some really nice enclosures for those. ESU sells those as well. RU Naked also has now their sound for cars too, so flange, squeal, etc. that adds to the effects. And that was a point I was possibly going to add to, but we'll go ahead and add to. I'm a big fan of track sounds, track clack, wheel squeal. And I don't think you can recreate those in any way accurately with physics, with anything mechanical, because the physics are just different. They don't scale the same way. Gravity doesn't scale the same way. Friction doesn't. Weight doesn't. I mean, if you you have a piece of, you have a box car or something. This car, the prototype of this car weighs, I don't know, 1,000 ton or something like that. Not that much, but 70 ton. So 70 ton car. If it weighed 87 ton, if you scaled it down, it'd still weigh 1 ton. So we're not scaling weight down anything close to accurate. So you can't have the same sound effects. The only way you're going to get that is by using speakers of some kind. So like these little 1-inch Mylar speakers that I'm going to put under the track. You can put it in your freight cars. If unlike me, where I run a coal hauling or commodity railroad, the vast majority, or not the majority, a lot of trains on my railroad are consists or blocks of empty cars. That's troublesome for sound cars. But I think scaled soundtracks, that has the little sound cars and stuff. If you put one of those every 6 or 8 cars, you're really onto something. But in the absence of putting that in a bunch of freight cars, you're going to have to depend on some room sounds, like digitally created room sounds to create that effect if you care for it.
Now, see, Steve Structures is watching on Twitch. How you doing, Steve?
Hey, Steve.
We'll probably start seeing more of him now that cool weather's hitting.
Oh, and the guy who is selling the proto throttle, Iowa Scale. His personal home layout is a really nice blog to follow. I guess it's his personal layout. I guess it's at home, but his small Indiana or a little Iowa something railroad he's building. He's using some like little Arduinos to fire some little sound modules and putting it in the curves. So as a train triggers certain points in the curve, you get some wheel squeal that would be prominent in the curve. He's not trying to create wheel clack all over the layout, and that's a couple Arduinos. You're out $3 or $4 a spot, maybe $10 with a speaker and power supply. It's a really cheap way to do that. and I think he documented pretty well how he did it, so it would be pretty easy to recreate if you go look up his layout on the which is linked from there. If you go to where the Proto Throttle is sold, it's linked off of that webpage too to his personal layout. And one of his recent blogs talks about how he created that wheel squeal.
Yeah, you run naked for. He said they need DCC headphones so the sound can be piped to the engineer directly. Can you imagine the fidelity in stereo headphones?
Well, and there is a way to get that, actually. It's one of the reasons that I don't care for the Bluetrain's Bluetooth system. They have no way to create, at least currently, no good way to create sound at the locomotive. They create the sound at the phone that you're using to drive the train over Bluetooth. Also, I love technology. I love Bluetooth, actually. I'm doing all the sound of my railroad all using Bluetooth. I don't like Bluetooth for control very well, but it's a really nice system they've created. I think the Wi-Fi system, Loco-Fi, is the Wi-Fi railroad control system that Miles has recently been installing on his layout. I personally think Wi-Fi is a better technology for control. But that system, the only way to get sound at the locomotive is to buy a little small Bluetooth speaker and run it in a boxcar behind the train, or behind the locomotive. But it does have that sound effect. And, that would not be hard. And there's a lot of people that are using, including our own Joe Desmond, who is using this little online web app thing. I mean, it's an online web page, but it runs as a web app on your phone that lets you create a lot of sounds like coupling sounds and operational sounds via a set of buttons on your phone, and it creates it right there on your phone. So there's some merit to that headphone business. It would require some work there's some pieces of that puzzle that are out there that you could put together, but it would still require, you'd have to fill in a few gaps and duct tape a few things together to get there.
Duct tape, yeah.
I'm a computer programmer, man. Everything is duct tape.
Duct
I
tape.
mean, that's right. You can't fix it with duct tape. That's computer program. That's what the whole Perl programming language. We call it the duct tape of computers. Duct tape anything together with a little Perl code.
And you've also got the containers, shipping containers from steel trains that give you
I've got
the
one of
refrigerator
those.
sound.
I'm glad you mentioned that. I had one of those to play with how they had done that, the electronics of it, but I couldn't use it because it was outside of my era. But now that I'm going to be modeling 86, 87 or something, do anybody know when were they running those refrigerator containers in the late 80s?
I
Probably
don't
not.
think so. No.
All right.
Started in the 90s, I think.
Of course they did, and all kinds of stuff.
They were probably semi-track. They were probably, if they were trying.
Yeah, doing it with TOFC, with trailer on flat car. Yeah.
So what you been up to, Andrew?
Well, just trying to stay healthy.
Oh, okay.
And right now I'm getting ready to start back up on that octagon.
Tim, I think you need a refresher. So yeah, okay.
I think you got forced to do that. Did you say you're getting ready to start back on it? Did you make any progress since we last seen it, or you just kind of held off?
No, I've been talking to my brother-in-law, and he just got finished going through PLC classes and everything else. He worked at Chrysler, so he's thinking about helping me with the electrical on all that stuff. So
Yeah, PLC's that's the way to do
that.
that, probably.
Yeah.
As opposed to trying to control each individual block or have a whole bunch of. We talked about that once. Kind of the old way of doing it, and by instinct from years ago. When I started out, to bring up a question I'll get to in a second from Spark about this. The reason I became an electrical engineer and got interest was from wiring railroads as a kid, as a young teenager, as a member of a club. It was all DC. We had a 10 cab with wireless cabs layout that was wired, and there was more wire under the layout than every scenery track, everything else we done. The wiring was the biggest part of the layout. Slow motion turnout machines that we built with worm drive motors, operational current detecting signals. We with double aught gauge solid copper ground wires. I mean, it was ridiculous the wire you had to put into a DC layout. Lionel Strange said it probably the best. When he went from DC to DCC, he did not as much rewire his layout as he unwired his layout going to DCC. But my instinct, because I built a bunch of these years ago, with what you were showing with that thing, was that you could do that effectively with a diode matrix. I mean, that's a very analog, old school way of solving the problem. But there's a digital equivalent of that. PLCs are, or microcontrollers are can effectively give you a digital equivalent of what we did with diode matrices and other things.
No, I've talked to a few people, and the few ideas that we've looked at is, since it is Fremo and everything else, I know at some of the shows they've had problem with going wireless, getting a channel or something like that. So I don't know if I really want to go completely wireless. Probably going to have to wire it somehow, just for reliability. I'm contemplating starting all over again on that one.
Really?
Working everything. Well, my bench work is not at 50 inches. It's at about 46 or 47 inches. So at the very least, I'd have to rebuild the legs. And I'm kind of wondering whether or not to make it just, because I think it's 26 and 17. 26, 36, so it's like 43 by 43, roughly, in octagon shape. So just to make it a single section, and then everything coming off of it in all the other directions. So there's a few things I've been kind of contemplating, figuring out which way to go with it, whether I should continue on with what I've got for a platform, or if I should rebuild. And actually, if I rebuild, I'll probably do the videos and everything else, show how I build the IPs and all that good stuff.
Okay, then you totally got to rebuild the thing, just so we get the videos out of the deal.
That's a possibility. I mean, I've looked at some things and I said that I could have done better.
Well, that's always the case. I say that about everything I do. If I've done something, and the vast majority of things on my layout, I've done at least 2 or 3 times, which is why it's taken me 4 years to even get where I have, because I'm a bit persnickety. Once I've done it about 3 times, I normally say, I got at least one more good time in me, and then I'll really kind of have it. And then I do it, there's always something. And an artist friend of mine who paints, which is the closest facsimile he probably understands by already better than anybody else I know. He says an artist, a true artist, never finishes a painting. They just stop. They just get to a point and stop. That happens. But they never truly finish. They just basically get to a point and give up on it, because there's always something they could have continued to.
Well, there's a few things to look at as far as it goes, and it's kind of like I can save myself some hardware, some of the rotolocks and everything else, and save myself some of the hassle when it comes to cutting in gaps and everything else for the whole thing. So that's one reason I'm contemplating starting off. I mean, for me, it's not a big deal.
Oh, that's right. The bench work stuff, you're a master of that. So your bench work is probably the most refined and precise that I've seen, probably in the hobby at large. And I've looked a lot at this stuff since Joe Fugate's been building those modules. Your bench work is spectacular.
Andy Reid, Brian W.
And that's one reason I may start all over, is to be able to, show people how it's done.
Yeah. Okay, so Brian W. asks if I've used the induction coils for wired structures, same tech as wireless cell phone charging on a pad. There's a bunch of standards for that, but the Qi charger standard, which is like, whatever, it's not CHI, it's like QI, basically. If you go Google QI charger, you can find a lot of commercially available super cheap little chargers for charging your phone. That's what I use. I just throw my phone on it on the nightstand at night. Me and Chris Rude and Robert have talked about these pretty extensively for for battery power or dead rail, and we're fascinated with it. But there's a bunch of problems with the rail getting in the way and stuff, so we're looking at putting them on the side and stuff. I hadn't thought about using it for structures and such, but that would be particularly good because the problem with the induction coils is there's a lot of loss. I mean, as an electrical engineer, I really hate circuits that are highly inefficient. And like the best circuits you ever get are like 60, 70% efficient, maybe 80%. Most things that you buy are much, much, much worse than that. But as an electrical engineer, I really like to get efficiency, and wireless chargers and coils are awful. But if all you're doing is power a few 0402 LEDs, and that's especially, I'm really glad you brought that up because I'm changing the era of my layout, as I mentioned recently, maybe last week or the week before, to the late 80s. But I want to be able to do much like Ralph does and swap between a couple layouts, at least later when I can solve some of the problems with steam locomotives that I can't seem to solve. And to do that, I've got to be able to change a few buildings out, and all of them have lights in them. So, yeah, using a few induction coils. And you can buy the ones that are not chargers, just the loose coils, for a couple bucks. I mean, they're dirt cheap.
Were you moving your year from what to the 80s? Was it just before the big mergers and everything else? I've often thought about that myself.
Well, the era that I want, that I will now down an exact year. I had it exactly figured out in my Steam era stuff. And I'm going to continue to be able to do that Steam era. But there's also another reason that I want to go, a couple reasons I want to go modern. One, the Steam is imperfect in running, especially with helper operations. The thing I care about, they're not as consistent as my initial testing. When I first bought a locomotive before I started on this layout, I did a bunch of serious testing to figure out weights. That's how I determined how much to weight my cars. I weighted my train so that 26 to 28 cars absolutely required 2 locomotives to get up the grade. You can only get about 15 or 16 with one locomotive up the hill. But as I come to find out, sometimes that's exactly what happens, and sometimes not so much. They're inconsistent. Diesels are more consistent. And then I have to put some of this or lay some of this at Ralph's feet. Some of the weathering that he's doing, there is no examples of that in 1950. Many of the cars were wood, a lot of the steel, or a few of the cars were still wood. They weathered quite differently. And most of the steel cars were relatively new, very well maintained. And just after World War II in 1950 that I bought, like most stuff is new. And the weathering of the mid 80s is superb. So I'm modeling that period immediately after the Norfolk Southern and the CSX became those companies. So you can see consists of locomotives. I've got a bunch of pictures of consists that have a Southern tuxedo high hood running long nose on point, and a NS, Jeep 59 or 60 second, and a Norfolk and Western, on the tail of the consist, and some mixed helper combination of stuff. Same thing on the CSX line, because I'm on both, where they cross over each other on my layout. So.
The funny thing is, I look at some of the CSX paint schemes. I like that.
Got it too.
But then you go before that, and you go to Chelsea system. I didn't like their paint schemes.
And what I like is the diversity of the era. What I'm going to love is that I model an operational section of the CS or the Clinchfield, which is is the CSX railroad by '84. So it's really nice to see Atlantic Coastline and Family Lines and L&N and Clinchfield and stuff that I grew up with. I grew up on an L&N line and modeled the L&N and later CSX many, many years of my young life. And then I just realized I didn't really like the company. I grew up with it, I was used to it, but I didn't love the CSX as a company. Whereas the Norfolk Southern and the Norfolk and Western is a hard railroad to not love if you're a railroad guy. I mean, they're a railroad company ran by railroad men from the Civil War all the way through today consistently. They love steam. They were the last class one to maintain it. They love being a railroad. And CSX is a bit more like a bunch of accountants running a railroad. Even though I loved and modeled the CSX for many years, they're not exactly.
Well, I look at it from a point of view of just being a modeler. Like I say, I like their modern paint scheme, but I didn't like the Chelsea system paint scheme. So.
Right. But the diversity of having C&O, B&O, a little bit of Western Maryland, possibly a couple chassis locomotives here and there, and
Here just before they had the mega mergers where you got like just CSX, Norfolk Southern, UP, and BNSF.
Yeah, I think BNSF come later than the others, of course. Actually, I'm quite sure they did.
But it's
So-
kind of, there was a time period where, for me, before I built the bridge, I would say, somebody asked me, what do you model? I said, Denver and Rio Grande. But now I'm getting to the point, I'm looking more Midwest again.
I can see but I can see the appeal of all of it. I mean, there's no railroading that I don't find fascinating. I mean, if you could show me some of those weird Garrett locomotives where they push the tender up front that they run in South Africa or something. That's fascinating to me. The Alaskan railroads and stuff, like Bob interested in showing pictures of those things. Absolutely spectacular. I even kind of have a tendency to kind of want to be like what Martin does from down under, be a bit of a rubber gauger. I want to do some O-scale 2 rail, Proto 48 stuff, and I want to do something different there. That's kind of how I ended up looking at the era transition. Is I was going to do a small O-scale 2 rail layout just to get something running and in here. And if I was going to do that, I was going to do it in the 80s era because I can't afford steam locomotives in O-scale. I'm not that I'm not that well off, man.
Hey, Andy, while you're talking about your era for the 80s, I was doing a little research before and I was looking up containers. Refrigerated containers pretty much started coming into being in the late 60s.
Really?
Yeah, so they just weren't as prevalent until just in the 90s, where a lot of things were being shipped via container. And so you now had more of the perishable foods and stuff like that they could be put in the container for like 17 days without having to redo it all.
Right. One of the first kits that was the A-Line when they first started coming out with the containers.
Yeah.
Was it Gunderson that had the high sides on them?
Right.
Yeah, maxi stacks or something like that.
Something like that. Well, I think I have a kit where it actually has
right there. Yeah. That one.
Yeah.
It has the refrigeration unit on the end of it or something.
Yeah.
Right.
Not on the individual containers yet.
Yeah, some of the stuff you buy now are mostly modern containers. You're going to get the 53 footers, the 48 footers. Back in the 60s, you're probably down there, the 20 and 40 footers.
Yeah, that
always was prevalent. But
20s and 40s are still popular today.
Yeah, but you just don't have refrigerated ones that you see.
No.
And that's the thing he's probably going to look for is an 80s era kind of container that's refrigerated.
I actually found a pretty good. I found a pretty good document, Andy. I'll send you later. Found it online yesterday on the history of containerization.
Oh, and I watched I'm a Discovery Channel expert on that too because I've watched a couple hour-long videos. Yeah, I've coined that term recently. I'm saying Discovery Channel expert.
This started with containerization.
Well, the Pennsylvania Railroad was doing some containerization in the 20s, but it wasn't this thing that come out in the 40s.
To the forefront.
Yeah, the containers come out in the 40s. The like what we think of as containers today come out, kind of during the 40s, during World War II era, but they wasn't popularized. Nobody wanted to touch this guy's idea for the containers until like the late 60s, and then when it did, it blew. It's the whole reason that that we have avocados all year long and everything we buy comes from China. The container did that single-handedly. That's what because Bernie Kopinski, which is a great model railroader everybody should follow. His channel's great. He's wrote several books that are really good, and he wrote a book on and built a small layout. He always does to kind of prove out the cases he's arguing in his book. That's about a seaport, a bulk port operation where they bring in bulldozers and things that don't fit on containers, which is fascinating.
The article I found talks about TOFCs, containerization, and it started basically with Pennsylvania Railroad. But it was mainly started out because of the need to move the circuits by train.
Really? That totally makes sense.
The TOFC and everything, it started basically with the idea to move the circuits because they could just pull the semi-truck and trailer up onto the train with specially designed flat cars. But then that evolved into the containers that, just the trailer, and then eventually just the body of the trailer, which is the container. And international shipping helps, move it along also. The one article I was reading, it's by a UK MRL member. He put together this whole big PDF of it. And he got some really interesting photos in there. But he's talking about all that. And
you got to hook me up with that document.
53 footers are domestic only.
Really?
I tell you, the one down.
20 footers, 40 footers are international shipping.
I'll tell you, the one downside I see to containers, as far as from a model railroading perspective, is they did away with all the boxcars. That's your boxcar nowadays.
Oh, it done away with containers. Done away with it.
So if you were a model railroader and you wanted to take that 40 or 50-foot boxcar to an industry, and all of a sudden now you're doing containers, well, there goes taking that.
I still see a lot of boxcars on the railroad through here, and a lot of containers.
For bulk.
But
things that don't containerize.
If you honestly look at it, the container did away with the 40-foot boxcar.
Oh, it done away with the 40-foot for sure. Forced people into somewhat specialty, and only the bulk operations. It done away with team tracks, local freights, LCL or less than carload traffic. There's a number of things that the container done away with. But then also, you can eat avocados and toast all year long. So.
I used to, when I first started working, I worked for a lumber company, and we had a team track right outside of the yard, and we were about the only ones that actually unloaded on the team track. Every now and then, the railroad agent come by and said, "Hey, you got to clean up your mess over here." He says, "I got a carload of bricks coming in or something." But yeah, we used
every town used to have one, and I love any spur or railroad facilities where there's a lot of diversity, which I think paper plants and other things are really interesting because it's an industry that takes a lot of cars. It's also easy to do with backdrop flats and stuff. But interchange, I love interchange. The two railroads interchanging is my favorite thing. It's what I model effectively. And team tracks, because any car could go there just about. I mean, maybe not a tank car, but just about any car could go there. We have a team track in town, effectively. And they unload aggregate products, agricultural products, food, animal food, stuff like that, with these portable roller things and it's like right across the main drag in town.
Yeah, I can tell you, one time when I was working at the lumberyard, we started. That was back in the late '70s, and housing was booming, and they had it starting at like 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning. And we're unloading cars and everything else, and to get to it, we seen those headlights coming in at about 4:30 or something like that. We thought it might be somebody coming to rip off some lumber. So we all grab a 2x4 ready to go, and it turns out it's the cops. They're coming to check up on us.
Ha!
So we're working. Look inside the yard. So the whole yard is actually operating. Yeah, we used to unload. I used to unload, or I should say, we used to unload anywhere from 7 to 10 cars a day. Unload.
Wow. Man. Yeah, that's tough work. I mean, even with forklifts and all that stuff, that's a hard day's work.
The team track was where we were at, where I was at. You had concrete on one side, the other side was basically dirt, and it gets all muddy and everything else. We used to come flying around the corner, turn it hard to the left, turn it hard to the right. Got the moving the forks up at the same time you're going up there. Hopefully you get it. You knew where we're about to put it as far as it goes, and hopefully you got in there and got your forks underneath the lift before you finish your forward momentum. If you could get a lift on there, you could unload it. But there were a lot of times it's go get another fork truck and pull me out and try it all over again. It was different. And we used to put our boxcar special up in the boxcars for like white pine that came in. And what you had to do is you had to use a fork truck to put the fork truck up into the car, and then you had to hand off your your lifts of pine lumber and everything else off to the fork truck outside. We had one time where we actually, I've got a guy was working inside and he come out there to the door to go, and he hit the brakes and there's just a slight grade, and next thing you know, you got the car moving down towards the team track. So we go up, you'll see the foreman in the office, and he says, the car moved. He says, yeah, he says, I thought it was a little early for the switch to be in. He says, what do you want us to do? He said, well, go push it back. So we go straddle the tracks with the fork truck and push it back to the spot, we used to call it the 10 spot.
Well, that's an interesting thing that's hard, that brings up a point that's really hard to recreate in modeling that I thought about in the 80s time period, that in the area that I model, the vast majority of coal loadouts used an end loader to move cars.
Yep.
They pulled the cars under the loader. You know, the crew would come up and drop a set of empties, maybe pick a set of loads or not, and leave them be, and then do it with an end loader. You go back to the 50s, they would either keep the locomotive there and pull through, or they had their own locomotive for large facilities, or they had car pullers, a glorified winch bolted to the ground. In the 80s, it's done with an end loader, and there's no good way to recreate the modeling of that operation. Or I don't know how to anyway, unless you put an end loader on. They don't have high rail end loaders. They just run them over the tracks because, in every loader I've ever loaded out I see, especially in the 80s, all it is the rail barely sticking above, completely, covering the whole track.
At one time, we had heisters, and 4-speed, 3 or 4-speed, depending on which heister you got and everything else. We had to move the boxcar back. All we did is straddle the rails and bump the forks up against the coupler and work on pushing it back. And it was a lot of work.
And in a lot of agricultural loaders and facilities, they would take a John Deere tractor, effectively just a large tractor, and weld a coupler offset of cedar so that they could run the tractor down the cedar, with one set of wheels down between the rails. They'd run it up and down with a coupler and pull cars or push cars with that. And that's where that little track mobile or whatever, I think, originated from that being done with tractors.
Yeah.
But I don't know how I could recreate that. I've been really fascinated with, to speak of the induction coil stuff we were talking about earlier, with the like the Faller car system, or the open car equivalent of that. It's kind of an open source group of guys that are making cars that drive on roadways on our layouts that don't have a slot. It's not not slot car. They follow a wire. I don't know exactly if that's possible to recreate that around track work with the rails being a problem. I'm not sure. I may do some testing with that, because if that's the case, then I could have end loaders that are operatable, or because I don't know that you can do it with RC. The body of an end loader at ATO scale is just not very large, or you could do like an RC thing like Ken Patterson has showed off a lot. Days work safe. They've got them all blocked off. That don't make you feel good.
You're muted. Your headset's off there, Bob.
Or something is. Something's muted anyway. Oh yeah, I guess it would be the headset.
I like you ran out of juice.
That's yeah.
All right.
No, still can't hear you. Nope. Nope.
All right. So
Here's here right now while
here's this document.
Okay.
I guess the guy's giving a presentation here sometime.
Yeah, at MRL
Clinic. Paul Hobbs. He's a UK modeler, according to the location of this file that I found. Hang on a second.
And I really like railbox and railgun cars for some reason. I don't exactly know why. I guess just cut my teeth at the early era of modeling with those being popular. And I much prefer TOFC. Like the line I'm modeling, the tunnels are too tight for double stacks, so they had to bring the double stacks to the town that I modeled, and they split on the Norfolk Southern, and they just split them off and run them over track and tracks down the CSX. Another reason I like the late 80s era. It's going to be fun to operate, fun to model because there's that difference in operation there. But I like TOFC better. I think trailers on flat cars are just more interesting looking to me.
Nope. Try the mute mic. The mute button on your headphones.
Yeah, you got to get me a link to this document. This is interesting. So, I mean, even if it is just a PowerPoint presentation, effectively, but that's a PDF, whatever. So that's cool.
How about now?
Yep.
Yes, sir.
My whole computer just went, laid over and fell down on the ground.
I think I fixed
I
it.
had to restart.
I had to reboot my computer. My mouse just died. My sound died. Everything.
That's what mine did a while ago. I had to restart. I actually had to reboot it.
Yeah, it was just kind of strange. I'm like, why is this mouse not working? No red light. I'm like, I'm hearing stuff, but I couldn't say anything. No, I wasn't hearing anything. I was completely dead. I had to do a hard reset. But anyway, I was sharing a picture earlier.
Yeah, we were teasing you about the picture.
Yeah. Well, the picture, safety, my responsibility, KC unit. I'm in Topeka. The big boy is parking in the yard right in this area. So standing on top of this hill, this mound of dirt and rock and everything and ballast that they dumped there on this sign. So we're getting above the crowd and just taking some pictures. Well, I'm pointing at a little thing that I had made. And it's kind of ironic that I put a divot in the sign with my head.
That's why the numbers got blanked out now. Somebody took the numbers off.
Exactly.
If you're getting hurt on the side that talks about safety, then they need to take the numbers off the side.
See all these pins?
Who put the divot in the sign behind your head?
I don't know. That was there.
Somebody from the railroad sitting there shaking their head. They said, "Oh my God!"
No, not yet.
All these days, we tried to go for safety and everything else, and it's some damn foamer that's ruined it.
Some dang rail fan.
So all the pins that are in my hat got embedded into my skull.
Oh.
So I had all the little frogs on the back of the pins got buried into my forehead. So I got like 3 or 4 little marks up on top of my head. The thing is, I couldn't see it because the bill of the cap was in the way. So I was facing like I am now, and I kind of wanted to get underneath the sign. I thought it was a little bit higher up than it was, and I couldn't see it. So I went right into it. I ducked down a little bit, but not enough. And just crunch, and that was it's a good thing it was rotting away, because I wouldn't have made that mark if it wasn't starting to rot.
I was going to say, you did that pretty good to put that in there.
Yeah. I mean, I had turned around and started walking, and I probably had this little momentum there, and boom.
A few deleted expletives to go with it?
Almost.
Oh, okay.
Almost.
Probably about the same stuff as he was saying about his headphones a minute ago, but this is probably why the railroad loves foamers so much. That's why the railroads love us.
And now
And
they got to replace that sign just because of you, Bob.
yep, and she's an EMT.
I bet she was loving it.
That's the way to travel. Travel with a safety net. Where was
Yep.
that at? Is that Kansas City proper?
Topeka.
Oh, okay.
And this is Jamie. Her dad is the one that that she had Ed Dickens put her dad's ashes through the big boy.
Oh, that's right. And that
Yeah.
they blew the whistle going over.
Yep.
Yeah, that was a great story. That was awesome.
So this was our first time actually physically meeting, face to face and stuff. So.
And you walk into a sign.
Yeah. Well, we actually
Nonetheless.
we actually met in Kansas City the night on Monday night, but so we were chasing together this whole day, and so we're near the end of the day, and watching the train stop for the night. He was getting ready to pick up 10 fresh, brand new covered hoppers to drag behind the big boy because they had dropped off a bunch of passenger cars to send back up here to Omaha, and so they needed some extra weight and braking weight behind them, I guess. So they picked up fresh ones so it wouldn't have any graffiti on them, because you can't pull any graffiti behind a public affairs train for the Union Pacific, because they won't have to answer all the calls. Why did Johnny see this big F word on the side of this rail car? You were pulling behind this big steam locomotive. So, oh, that makes sense. It's got to be 100% clean, or they won't pull it. So otherwise, they'd be pulling 150 train cars and stuff all the time, doing revenue service. But can't do it. But yeah, she wanted to put a Band-Aid on my forehead. I'm going, dude, come on, really? I know you're an EMT, but I'm not dying here. I don't have blood in my eyes. She goes, you sure? It's like, yeah, you're gonna probably want to put a cast on my arm next, right? She goes, well, if you want, I've got it all in the truck. Because they drove their firefighting vehicle with the go fast lights and everything on it.
Yeah, that's the way to rail fan, man.
So
it's a lot better to chase.
Yeah, so it was they're prepared for anything really. And a few times we thought a few people were about to get hit by a steam locomotive.
Yeah, like I said, it says work safe.
Yeah.
Operation mechanical signal right behind her must say Homer.
Well, it's just kind of ironic.
Well, honestly, most of us, and I haven't been a rail fan for many years, but I used to, and most rail fans generally tend to be pretty safe. It's more the general public that comes out to see this stuff that is the ones that almost get hit. They don't understand clearances. They're not paying attention whatsoever. And that's not always the case. I'm sure there's examples of either case, but most of us tend to know a little bit more about what we can do to be safe, generally.
I was hoping you could see my signature that I put up here above it, and I put the Bob on it. But
you should have had to sign it. You should have had to sign it. That's been my rule.
Yep.
Is you got to put your name on mistakes. When I was a carpenter, if you made a mistake, you had to sign your name on whatever it was that you messed up on. Used to be the requirement.
Yep.
The Bob was here.
I just put plain to Bob. I was like, I'm going to stop right there. No man cave on it. I'm already putting a YouTube video out with a picture, not this picture, but a picture of the divot in my forehead.
Yeah, let's not destroy railroad property and then put email addresses and contact information.
Yeah.
Step back a touch.
Mm-hmm. So he was like, well, I hit a safety sign. I'm sorry. If they want, I'll make them a new one.
It's still a cool picture. It's still a cool. Always a good story.
Yeah. And then another cool picture or thing that happened that day is I'm standing in Lawrence, Kansas, right before Topeka, and I'm back there by the tender, and Ed Dickens walks by. He stops. He goes, "To Bob, how you doing?" I'm like, oh, he knows me. Well, I guess this is a good thing. I'll shake your hand, sure, why not? We've talked before, you just didn't really recognize. So, but he watches my channel.
You want
That's
to
right.
kill?
YouTube famous, right?
You want to kill your screen share, Bob?
What?
Screen share. It's still
Did it
on.
not? Oh, did it stop? I guess.
Now it has.
Oh, okay. But yeah, anyway, he, shaking my hand, and we're talking, and of course, Jamie and him are already kind of tight buds right now because of the whole Father's Ashes thing. But I almost gotta go up in the cab. But they were kind of doing a lot of work, so they wouldn't do that. So.
But I've rode in the cab of the Class J for about 100 miles, Cincinnati down to Oakdale. And I've been in the cab of the 1218, but not when it was under steam. It was just sitting in the yard in Chattanooga when they were going to run an excursion the next day with the 1218. I've been pulled behind it under steam, but I've never been in the cab of a big articulated under steam. But the J, I got to ride it in the cab. That was once. That's a highlight of my volunteer work with the TDRN.
Oh, good old days.
Hey, there you are. Auto cars. That's one of the reasons I like the era that I'm modeling is these open auto cars that were in the 80s too. I don't care much for the modern auto racks as much. I'm going to buy one of those new ones that scale, like one or two or three of those new ones that Scale Trades come out with. I'm not going to go as overboard. I know I was going to say I'm not going to go as overboard as my buddy Ted here with it. I'm not going to pre-order them out of stock or nothing, but I probably will order. And I'll order the rivet gutters because I'm going to buy like 2 or 3 of them. But I haven't found a good supplier for the open style ones. I found Overland in brass, of course, made a few of them, and they're not god awful expensive actually. If I were to get a couple, but I may just build them out of some AccuRails, do a little bit of detail work or something on them to kind of clean up some.
He listed a model manufacturer on some of these, like down here.
Yeah, a lot of people have made the rail box. There's a company, I don't know if it was Tangent or Exact Rail. Actually, I think it was Exact Rail, if I'm not mistaken, that made the waffle side cars, that the Southern used a lot of waffle side cars. I'm going to need some nice waffle boxes. I rather like those too, because that was popular in the era that when I was young, the rail faded waffles were around. Rail gods. Somebody else come out with those recently, but I'll have to look it up to find out.
Alrighty. Well, we done passed the 1 hour mark. We've had a pretty good night tonight.
Hey, can I have 30 seconds before you close up?
What?
So, 30 seconds. 35 seconds because it's me. But I'll talk faster. We talked about something earlier. I just don't want to leave an impression about something that was wrong that we spoke about earlier. DCC versus DC, just one brief thing that's super different about it is the single rail versus 2 rail isolation. There is a big difference in DC and DCC because of that one consideration. Now we can make a whole show on the differentiation, but I didn't want to leave that completely as vague as I think I did. That there is a difference because of the type of isolation, but you also don't need as many blocks and stuff as you do in DC. That's all. I just wanted to make sure I didn't leave that so vague. And that was 30 seconds or less. So,
Alright. Alrighty. Well, next week on Thursday is Thanksgiving.
Already?
so we're all having turkey together.
I will be here, so if anybody wants to pop in, you can.
So we can all be laying down on the couch or something like that going.
I will.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. So if you want to pop in, come on in. I'll be here and have the room open. Being Thanksgiving, I'm not going to guarantee we'll be talking completely train stuff, but it may drift a little bit.
Hopefully don't fall asleep like that one guy that always fell asleep.
That's that tripper man after we had.
Oh, yeah.
And the carbs.
Yes,
Yeah,
Jerry, we are starting at 8 Central now. We've had to do that. I've had a time schedule change, so I had to move the show an hour early. So we'll be doing 9 o'clock now like all the rest of the shows. And next week will be Thursday show's only one, isn't it? Yep. And that'll end the month of November. Then we got December. Then we'll be back into a new year again.
With some new stuff starting first of the year. So look for
Yeah.
some new stuff coming from us first of the year.
Yep. So y'all have a good weekend, and we shall see you on Turkey Day.
All right.
So be
We'll see you
safe.
tonight.
Be safe.